Well, some eyebrows have been raised over Liberal leader Michael Ignatieff's call to extend Michaëlle Jean's term as Governor General. Her 5-year term ends in September, and the Prime Minister's office has indicated it will not be extended.
Over the weekend, Ignatieff revealed the Queen's Canadian Secretary consulted him on a successor to Jean. Ignatieff says he recommended Jean's term be extended because she's done such a great job. Now, it's an unusual break with the nonpartisan tradition associated with the Governor General's office, and the Monarchist League of Canada calls Ignatieff's public endorsement peculiar.
Joining us now by telephone, we have Bob Finch of the Monarchist League. In Ottawa, Brian Lilly, who reports on capital concerns for Astral Media Radio. Brian, for those who had hoped against hope that Michaëlle Jean might somehow be kept on as Governor General, has the Liberal leader effectively killed that dream by speaking out on the matter?
Well, I think so, and this is a point I was making with Jerry Agar on News Talk 1010, is that by coming out and saying in public, look, we've got to, we want her to stay, that he's put her in, Michaëlle Jean, in a bad position. If Prime Minister Harper were to follow this very public advice and extend her term, and we ended up in another constitutional crisis like the coalition crisis of December 2008, if she sided with him, the public would just say, well, she owes him. He got her the job. She owes him.
Wow. Bob, do you agree with that assessment? And is it common for an opposition leader to be consulted by the Prime Minister when he chooses a GG?
Well, first, I do agree with the assessment. I think that Mr. Ignatieff has put Madame Jean in a very difficult and odd position. As to consulting with opposition leaders, yeah, it's done all the time. It's actually more common than we think, but the important thing is that it's typically done in confidence, which means the opposition leader doesn't call a press conference afterwards and then announce to Canada who he wants to be Governor General.
And that's what you find peculiar about this, Bob. And do you agree with Brian that it's pretty much curtains for Michaëlle Jean?
It's very strange. I can't say. I think it certainly raises the risk of, because of the fact that he has put the current GG in the situation, I think it probably, in all probability, it has probably achieved the opposite of what he may have wanted.
Brian, what names are being put forward as potential candidates for the position?
We've only heard some rumors, like the Facebook group about William Shatner, another one for Preston Manning. There's also, unfortunately, been some leaks from the Prime Minister's office. Now, these are unnamed sources giving out names like Rick Hansen, retired General John de Chastelain, and it's unfortunate that those are coming out because it should be very quiet, nonpartisan, and be outside of politics. But both sides are putting it into politics, although Mr. Ignatieff in a far more public manner. But Rick Hansen's been disqualified by some because he's not bilingual. General John de Chastelain, a distinguished career, but perhaps not the uplifting qualities that Ignatieff laid out, saying what he was looking for in a Governor General, being a woman that left Haiti, an oppressive regime, the first black Governor General, a woman of distinction. I'm not sure that General de Chastelain would meet the newly publicized criteria that the Liberal leader has set out.
Bob, do you think the public should have any input at all into who is the Governor General of this country?
Well, I think, in short, to answer that question shortly, I think no. I think that it's good to have your ideas and your suggestions, and you could certainly make your opinions known to the powers that be in Ottawa. But the benefit of the Governor General, the whole premise of having a constitutional monarchy is to remove politics from the equation. To consult the electorate or Canadians at large, you just would not be able to retain the nonpartisan nature of the office or of the Crown if you're going to achieve that. So for me, I think that it's best to be left to the Prime Minister and the Queen to make a decision, and then we will support whoever that person is.
Okay, Bob Finch, thank you so much. Brian, we're going to move on to other matters from the Capitol. The latest polls seem to show that the Jafford Georges affair really isn't having any effect on the government's approval ratings. Are you surprised?
No, because we're still waiting to find out what the there is. You know, we're not sure why she was kicked out of cabinet, and it appears that that her husband, Raheem Jaffers, may have engaged in lobbying. We don't know for sure whether that was illegal. Did he actually break the law, or does it only appear that he broke the law? Either way, it appears he was a very bad lobbyist. So people are waiting for some meat on the bone, and meanwhile, the Liberals have been going at this day after day. Then you've got NDP leader Jack Layton trying to reach out onto issues that Canadians are actually talking about, like the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and saying, hey, look, we're considering drilling in the Arctic. There's a request from the BC government, or a talk from the BC government, of drilling off of Canada's west coast. Are we sure that our coastlines would be safe given what we've seen in the Gulf? So he's trying to deal with issues that Canadians are talking about, and the Liberals are talking about issues that their own supporters are talking about, and not necessarily what the public at large is concerned about.
Brian, while the Tories seem to have no trouble raking in the cash needed to fund an election, the same can't be said for the opposition candidate.
No, there was one quarter last year where I believe the Liberals slightly edged out the Conservatives. Elections Canada reports the fundraising numbers on a quarterly basis, and I think the Liberals in the second or third quarter of last year raised $4 million to the Conservatives $3.9, and then in the first 3 months of this year it slipped back down. So the Conservatives raised more money than all the other parties combined. In fact, if you combined all the other parties' fundraising efforts and then added in almost as much as the Liberals added, you would finally reach what the Conservatives brought in, more than $4 million in the first 3 months.
How would you interpret those numbers from the poll and the fact that the Tories are able to make so much more money, or to collect so much more money for their war chest?
Well, the great thing about having to go to your members and say, we want your money to fund an election, is that if you annoy your members, they're not going to donate to you. And so it's a quick indication of whether your core supporters are happy with you or not. And the Conservatives are actually down in the first 3 months, so we'll have to wait and see if that continues. Maybe all this deficit spending is starting to annoy the fiscal Conservative part of Mr. Harper's party. But the Liberals clearly haven't been set on fire by Mr. Ignatieff. That's clear in their poll numbers. I mean, they bounce between 25 and 28, 29%. They haven't really cracked the 30% line. And despite being a party that's at one point, when Paul Martin came to power a few years ago, had 400,000 members, they can only raise just over $1 million in the first 3 months.
Are you hearing any rumblings?
$4 million for the Tories.
Are you hearing any rumblings of people wanting to oust Mr. Ignatieff?
Rumblings, no. There are always people waiting in the wings, and the obvious implication there is Bob Rae waiting and abiding his term. Maurizio Bellavacqua, who was a leadership candidate at one point, appears that he's going to be leaving federal politics to run for the mayoralty in Vaughan. So some people are leaving. There's been a bunch of people leaving both Queen's Park and the Hill to run for mayor's positions in various cities. But nobody's doing an open campaign, not like Maxime Bernier and the Conservatives, trying to set himself up for whenever Mr. Harper decides that he's had enough.
Right. Well, we hope you don't run for office, Brian. You stick with your job as Astro Media's big guy up on Parliament Hill. Brian Lilly, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.